Welcome to your loan officer training, funding, and recording. In this session, we will walk through the complete process that takes place from the moment a loan is cleared to close all the way through post-closing. Understanding these steps is critical to your success as a loan officer and to ensuring a smooth experience for your borrowers. Let's begin with wire transfers. A wire transfer is the method used to move funds electronically from one financial institution to another. In the mortgage process, wire transfers are used to send loan proceeds from the lender to the title or escrow company on the day of funding. This is one of the most important steps in the closing process, and it must be executed accurately and on time. Wire transfers are initiated by the lender after all funding conditions have been satisfied and the loan documents have been signed and reviewed. The title or escrow company will provide wiring instructions, which include the receiving bank's routing number, account number, and the name of the account holder. It is absolutely critical that these instructions are verified directly with the title company by phone before any wire is sent. Wire fraud is a serious and growing threat in the real estate industry. Fraudsters often intercept emails and send fake wiring instructions. Always call the title company using a number you have independently verified. Never use a phone number provided in an email. Once the wire is confirmed and sent, the title company will notify all parties when the funds have been received. This confirmation is what triggers the next step, recording. Now let's talk about the recording process. Recording is the official act of submitting the deed of trust and other required documents to the county recorder's office, making the transaction part of the public record. Recording legally establishes the new ownership of the property and the lender's lien position. The documents that are typically recorded include the deed of trust or mortgage, the grant deed or warranty deed transferring ownership to the buyer, and any other documents required by the county. Once recorded, the county assigns a recording number and a recording date and time to each document. This information is then reported back to the title company and the lender. Recording can happen on the same day as funding, or it may occur the following business day, depending on the county and the time the wire was received. In some counties, recording is done electronically, which speeds up the process significantly. In others, a title company representative must physically deliver the documents to the recorder's office. As a loan officer, you should always confirm with your escrow or title officer what the expected recording timeline is for each transaction. Borrowers often ask when they can get their keys, and the answer is typically after recording is confirmed. Next, let's cover post-closing. Post-closing refers to all the activities that take place after the loan has funded and the documents have been recorded. This phase is handled primarily by the lender's post-closing department. But as a loan officer, you should understand what happens so you can set proper expectations with your borrowers and real estate agent partners. During post-closing, the lender will review the loan file to ensure all documents were executed correctly and that the file is complete. Any missing signatures, initials, or documents will need to be corrected through a process called a post-closing cure. The loan file is then prepared for sale on the secondary market or retained in the lender's portfolio. The title company will issue a final title policy, which protects both the lender and the borrower against any title defects that may arise after closing. The borrower will receive their copy of the closing documents, typically within a few days of closing. Post-closing also includes the disbursement of funds. The escrow company is responsible for paying off any existing liens, paying real estate commissions, paying closing costs, and distributing the net proceeds to the seller. All of these disbursements must be documented and reconciled before the escrow can be officially closed. Now let's go deeper into funding. Funding is the process by which the lender releases the loan proceeds to the escrow or title company. Before funding can occur, all funding conditions must be met. These conditions are outlined in the lender's funding approval and may include items such as proof of homeowner's insurance, a final inspection, updated pay stubs or bank statements, and confirmation that all prior liens will be paid off at closing. Once the loan officer and the processing team have satisfied all funding conditions, the file is submitted to the funding department for review. The funding department will audit the loan file, verify that all documents are in order, and issue a funding authorization. This authorization gives the escrow company permission to proceed with the signing appointment. After the borrower signs the loan documents, the escrow company sends the signed documents back to the lender for review. The lender's funding department will review the signed documents to ensure everything was executed correctly. Once approved, the lender will wire the funds to the escrow account. The timing of funding is important. Most lenders have a funding cutoff time, typically in the early afternoon. If the signed documents are received and approved before the cutoff, the loan can fund same day. If not, funding will occur the following business day. As a loan officer, it is your responsibility to communicate the funding timeline clearly to all parties, including the borrower, the real estate agents, and the escrow officer. Now let's revisit recording in more detail. Once the lender has wired the funds and the escrow company has confirmed receipt, the escrow officer will authorize the title company to record the documents. In states where the escrow and title functions are handled by the same company, this process is seamless. In states where they are separate, coordination between the two companies is essential. The title company submits the documents to the county recorder's office, either electronically or in person. The recorder's office reviews the documents for completeness and compliance with local requirements. Once accepted, the documents are stamped with the recording date and time and assigned a recording number. The recording confirmation is then sent to the escrow company, the lender, and the real estate agents. At this point, the transaction is officially complete. The buyer is now the legal owner of the property, and the lender's lien is officially on record. It is important to note that in some states, the transaction is not considered closed until recording occurs. In these states, the borrower should not be given keys or allowed to move in until recording is confirmed. Always know the laws and customs in your state regarding possession and recording. Finally, let's discuss escrow. Escrow is a neutral third-party arrangement in which funds and documents are held by an escrow company until all conditions of the transaction have been met. The escrow company acts as the intermediary between the buyer, the seller, the lender, and the real estate agents. When a purchase agreement is signed, the buyer typically deposits earnest money into escrow. This deposit demonstrates the buyer's commitment to the transaction and is held by the escrow company until closing. At closing, the earnest money is applied toward the buyer's down payment or closing costs. The escrow company is responsible for preparing the closing disclosure, coordinating the signing appointment, collecting all required funds, paying off existing liens, dispersing commissions and closing costs, and recording the documents. The escrow officer serves as the central coordinator of the closing process. As a loan officer, you will work closely with the escrow officer throughout the transaction. Clear and timely communication with escrow is essential to ensuring a smooth and on-time closing. Always provide your escrow officer with the loan documents, the funding conditions, and the expected funding date as early as possible. Once all funds have been dispersed and the documents have been recorded, the escrow company will issue a final settlement statement and close the escrow file. The transaction is now complete. To summarize, as a new loan officer, your role in the funding and recording process is to ensure that all funding conditions are met on time, that you communicate clearly with all parties, that you verify wiring instructions to prevent fraud, and that you set accurate expectations with your borrowers about the timeline for funding, recording, and possession. Thank you for completing this training. In the next module, we will cover funding and recording every loan officer must know.